Hey there, YouTube. Oh, let me scoot up. I was rearranging my desk here so that the lighting was better. So hopefully, just let me bounce around a little bit and I'll get started here in just a minute. I have no idea if anybody is going to actually be here. I did announce it a while back. I'm going to fool with the live chat just for a moment and see if I can figure out how I can see chats. If anyone does, that would be great. Pop out chat. What does the pop out chat do? Okay. Welcome to your live chat. Excuse me just a moment. I'm so new to this. Okay, that's not what I want to do. Okay. Give me just a minute. Okay. Trying to see how I can do this. I'm such a noob. Anyway, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. And we'll start in just a moment. Give YouTube a minute to catch up too. And hopefully if anyone had any notifications, they will get them. Let's check out the chat here. Okay, so anyway, don't need these, I don't think. So I invited everybody here today because I wanted to share a little walkthrough. Trying to make sure I've got enough light here. Share a little walkthrough of Oracle deck that I have been working on. Really for the past year, but it's been long. I mean, just consciously working on it for about a year, and but it's been in the making for a while. The pictures and in the deck, I have been working on now for a couple of, well, I guess it's 2 years now that I've been working on the images in the deck, and then, but not actually knowing that they were going to be a part of a deck at all. Actually, when I started doing, fooling around with the photographs that I took, I actually meant for them to be prints, and really just wanted to make some prints to frame for myself and a couple of other people that admired some of the photographs that I had been taking. And so the more I took pictures, the more I started to see a theme. I guess you start to develop a style in your photography, and I started to look at them. I've always took photographs intuitively and look a lot of times for things that other people might not see when they're taking photography. Not just, I don't care for just the boring photography. I like to see something else, like a picture within something within the picture, something that I see, kind of like, I guess, kind of like scrying in a way, yeah, kind of like something like that. So, anyway, those photographs started to, develop into a theme of things. And as I was looking at some of the photo albums that I had saved, I was like, these would make a really good deck. They would really look good together, and there's too many of them to just, put them in a print or whatever. But they are photographs that, for me, bring about certain feelings. Especially where I live at. Some of them are universal, and maybe all of them. But yeah, so to digress a little bit, I didn't know that they were going to really form into a deck. I had fooled around with the idea. I used to do some other kind of images. I also sketch and do some things, and I always knew my art would take some sort of form, whether it was drawing or painting or photography or what have you. But I never knew what kind of medium that was going to develop into. So that gives you a little bit of a background to it. So one of the things that inspired me, I guess, to actually put them into a deck was I was actually watching Mags over at the Woodland Hag. And I don't know if anybody has ever, anybody on my channel watches her. If you hadn't, I definitely suggest checking her out. I will be making sure to link anybody, any websites, and any other channels in the down bar when I upload this. But I can't remember the name of the actual video that she was speaking about this in, but she spoke of, she does deck reviews from time to time, and she's also put out her own Oracle deck, which is amazing, by the way, the Tree Whisper. But she was reviewing a deck that she was really fond of, and in the deck, while she was reviewing the deck, she fondly described it, and I'm paraphrasing here, that gave her the sense of home, that it made her feel like home, and that really just stuck with me for quite some time. And I would come back to that thought when I'm working with decks, and I've got many decks here behind me, and it stuck with me that right when she said it was, I don't really have a deck that feels like home to me, it's like a coming home when you use it. And don't get me wrong, I have some beautiful decks that I resonate with and I use for many different things. But one where I need to, for me, my deck, and maybe because it's my deck, it kind of grounds me so that I can intuitively move through my reading. And it just takes me to a certain place. And I think really that's the way it is with all decks. You use them for different sorts of reasons and different readings. And but I thought about it and I didn't have one. So before that, it really didn't dawn on me that those were my photographs, that I was supposed to have a deck that reminded me of home. What I did was days after and weeks was start searching for one on the internet. It really didn't dawn on me to make my own then. And I got to looking and I really couldn't find anything. Nothing that was, I couldn't find a deck that was modern enough, I guess, in today's times, where the images I could relate in today or in the not so distant past. And I hope that the fan doesn't kick on and it's too loud. If it is, I'm sorry. I'll try to speak up. But anyway, it was the search to find this deck, and I couldn't find anything. I was looking for something. I live in East Tennessee, for those of you that don't know, here in the U.S., and I live just minutes from Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. We live in a tourist town, but I couldn't find something that reminds me of the mountains and the scenery and some of the images that I grew up with, not just in a tourist town, but in Southern Appalachia. And not just Southern Appalachia, but I'm a big genealogy buff and history buff as well. I love to know where my roots are and where things come from and where I come from. And actually, the more I dug down the rabbit hole of this, I found a lot of things that tied me to, of course, my ancestry in Ireland and the British Isles. And I got to looking at their mountains, and funny enough, they're very, very similar to mine. But anyway, those images is something that I just could not find in a deck. I knew a specific feeling that I wanted to have when I worked in this area. I imagined it to be a shadow working deck, if you will. I don't really want to use the word shadow working. I prefer this term that I hope that I came up with was shadow walking. When you need to walk in the shadows and when you need to work that. And I consider myself a shadow walker. I believe that I've gone through very many deep, dark things in my lifetime, many of them, some of which people have said, I don't know how you're still alive and still, going. But anyway, I wanted one that would intuitively walk me into these spaces. And so, as I was having these thoughts, and as I was looking for this deck that did not seem to exist, and if something does out there, please show it to me. I began to still be working with these photographs, and that's when I decided, I think I'm going to try my hand at putting this together as an oracle deck. And at first I thought tarot, and then I just thought, no, I want something that leaves room for intuition and leaves room for imagination and your own interpretation. So I went with Oracle. It is a 44 card Oracle deck. And so I guess what I'm going to do is just kind of walk through. I probably won't go through in depth on each card. If I feel called to explain more, I will. As of right now, it does not have a guidebook. I have started one. I don't think that I am going to follow through with that, only because I really like using my intuition with these cards, and every time I sit down to put it into words, it just doesn't come. It's a feeling that I just can't, and I like that. I like decks like that. One of my favorite decks, along with Mags's Tree Whisper Oracle, is the Oracle of Echoes. And Anna Turin, I believe, is the author. I will also link that. That is also one of my favorite decks. It is a shadowy watercolor type style, and I just love it. It does have a PDF guidebook, but I tend to just use the images in a way that that resonate with me. So I'm going to go through them, and I see I've got some people. I'm sorry if I see that I have a live chat, but I don't see anything other than my own name. Again, forgive me. I'm a noob. So I'm just going to go through here and see where it lands. They meant to put them in the order in which people would receive them. I'm actually going to go through here and pick those, at least the first 3 cards out, because it will make a little bit more sense. They are all black and white photographs that I took. They are, the only filter they have gone through is the black and white filter on my camera. There are a few that ended up running back through the black and white filter that came in color. But for the most part, these were all took in black and white originally. They all were took by me. I'm very adamant about using my own images. And they were all took here where I live in East Tennessee, here in the mountains and surrounding right here. I think all of my images are within a 10-mile radius. So the first 2 cards I wanted to do this way because of the name of the deck. The name of the deck is Hollar Moon Mountain. I named it. Oh, hello, Brenda. I do see a chat here going, hello, I'm here just enjoying. Thank you. I appreciate that. I chose the live video actually because I am horrible about sitting in front of my phone or my computer and just recording and talking to nobody. I can have a conversation all day long with people, but to sit here, I've just never been very good at it. Hence, that's why I haven't uploaded a lot of videos, because I'm just so uncomfortable with it, to be honest with you. I like live people. But anyway, the reason I came up with Hollar Moon Mountain, it is simple and it is also deep. I'm only going to share the simple part because the deep part is for me to have and me alone. So anyway, Hollar. I actually live in a holler, and yes, it is HOLLAR, holler. You all may laugh, but those places actually do exist. And I do live on a holler. My street name, I won't give you the whole street name here, but it is Hollar Road, blank Hollar Road. So, Moon is where I started shooting with my professional camera that I got. And I always just enjoyed it. Is probably my very first intuitive connection on my spiritual path. Is I have a very deep and very special relationship with the moon. And so we actually have a huge mountain just that way that I photograph a lot. And there are when the moon hits right and it comes up, it's right over the top of the mountain. And it's just massive and huge and beautiful, and is one of my favorite things about living where I do. I live in a small home, and I would love to move into a larger home, but I don't know if I ever will because I just love. I would miss my mountain and my moon living out here in the holler, and of course that's the Hollar Moon Mountain is my mountain that's right over there. I'm surrounded by mountains. I feel safe and secure. That's one of the things. But yeah, very simple. But there's also very deep meaning in the name that I chose. So I'm going to start off actually with the Hollar card, and hopefully I don't have the best webcam. I wanted to use. I would love to use my camera. It's great, but I can't do live video, so I'm at the mercy of my webcam. And I promise you, though, I've used a Nikon P900. I think that's what it is. Pixels are amazing. So the DeX images really came across really well, crisp and clear. I don't know that will come across that way on the webcam. So the first one we have here is Hollar. And hopefully back in the holler here. I'm going to mention too that anybody who has visited the Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee may be familiar with some of the places I'm going to mention. This image here was actually taken, like I said, all the photographs within 10 to 15 miles radius of my home, but that would include Cades Cove. Cades Cove is an old settlement where they have preserved some of the churches, the cabins, the grist mill that was there. It was an old settlement, one of the first settlements here. And this was during a hike back in the holler, one of the hollers there. And I took this picture, and I just loved how the trees looked just so stoic. And this is about, for me, and this is why I'm not doing a guidebook, is when you go back into the depths of this holler and how you can just lose yourself in connecting with spirit and connecting with the trees and kind of going back in time and into your own world is where the holler, it's where I find peace. I also feel very, I don't know, it's timeless when you're, I don't know if you have a special connection with a place where you can go out into the mountains or the trees, but it's just a very special connection that I have, and the connection of living in the holler. Hollar Moon Mountain. So the next one is going to be the moon. And the moon card, I love, this is why I bought the P900, and I think they came out with the 1000, is because the amazing shots that you can get with the moon. I mean, they are just the detail. And this is actually my mountain beside my home and the moon coming over it, like I had spoke with earlier. And the moon card for me is all about intuition, this very watery, intuitive, just reminding us to lean on that and go into that place. At least that's what it means for me. The next one I have is the Hollar Moon Mountain. And this is my mountain right behind my home. And my web camera is not going to do it justice. Of course, we have actually have some snow left here and a bit of the fog that they call the Smoky Mountains here. And the mountains for me are all about protection. Anytime I go out of town, I always feel a little exposed and not as protected as when I get home to my mountains that are all around. And it just makes me feel secure and it makes me feel protected. It also speaks of ancestry and ancient times. The Appalachian Mountains we are a part of is actually one of the most ancient and oldest mountain ranges on Earth. They're not the biggest, but they're the oldest, which is why they're not the biggest. They have eroded over time. So this is the mountain. And like I said, it's not going to do it justice, the clarity of these cards. The next ones are in no particular order. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink. Oh, there's some more people. Good to see you come so far. Well done from the UK. Oh, thank you. Oh, let's see here. What is that? I don't know if it's just me, but I almost see a face underneath your title. Where do you see this? Under mine? You'll have to tell me where. You'll have to tell me where now. I'm so interested now. These aren't going to be in any kind of particular order because I've already been working with them and shuffling. One of the things too, my goals was to have some images that were not only familiar to me and where I live here in East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains, but it was also to hopefully resonate through time, maybe people's memories, some images, maybe even you might recognize from your main street, an older part of town, some wildlife. So I'm just putting that kind of out there. The next one I have here, let's see, which one should we share? This is one of my favorites actually in the deck. This is Trust. And it was one of my first photographs I chose. This is Trust. And it's actually, it almost was too much. It was almost too beautiful to actually put into my black and white deck. But black and white is my jam when it comes to photography. But this one in full color, it is a bluebird and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's got oranges on its chest and whites and several hues of blue, but it just glows, absolutely glows on this card. And if you look at the tiny tip top, and it was actually in my yard on a bush that I think it's a yellow. No, it's not a yellow bell bush. I can't remember. But this is the tip top of the bush, and I was just a few feet away, sitting outside one day last spring, and this bird just sat there for the longest time. But look at the tiny little, teeny tiny piece of branch that it's on, and it's just chilling. It's just just beautiful. And back here in the field, you'll see all the little light balls of light here that kind of sparkle back through there. And it was just an amazing shot. And I was just felt so honored to be witnessing this bird. But I had a quote that went with this, and I'm going to find it right quick, about the bluebird. And of course, bluebirds are all about happiness. But there is a quote and there was no author for this quote, but it was, a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not on the branch, but on her own wings. Always believe in yourself. She's not trusting the branch. She's trusting herself. She's not afraid. I'm just chilling on this tiny, I don't even need a huge branch. I just need to, perch right here and just trust. And I love that card, just trust in yourself. But look at the glow. I mean, the glow is absolutely, it's like an aura. It was just amazing, amazing. So I'm going to flip. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these because I want to keep everybody here all day long. The first card, Brenda says, it's almost a face, the title. I'll put it up there. And I would not doubt it because I can see all kinds of things in the trees. I was staring out my window the other day, and it almost looked like the way they were formed was like a temple. So I'm definitely going to have to take a look at this card. Yeah. So I'm not going to go through each and every one. I'll tell you where they were maybe photographed and a little bit, but other than that, I'm not going to stop unless I just feel called to, or if someone wants me to stop. But I can see the chat now, obviously. But this is view. And this is, again, took at Cades Cove. And y'all can look it up, Google it. It's in Cades Cove in Tennessee. Thank you, Stephen. This is an old farmhouse there by the grist mill. And I've took this picture many, many times. And to me, it's about looking in and looking out and the difference, what your view is. Looking out and seeing things a certain way, and the view looking in. And even when what I'm thinking of is when you look at people and you don't always see things from their view, and they don't always see things from your view. It's very different depending on if you're inside or outside the situation. And that's what, for me, this window. And also, one of the things I felt as I took this picture was the feeling of all the people who have looked out this window before me, and the settlers that lived there, and the family that lived in this house, and the things that they witnessed and experienced in their time, I guess over 100 years ago now. I just thought this was just a beautiful image. We have melancholy. Melancholy is a fairy statue that sits outside, actually in my garden outside. And I just loved this particular shot. She looks larger than life looking up at the sky, but I love statues. She's resting her head on a mushroom. But the melancholy was how I felt when I shot her. The next one I have is also very recognizable if you've been to Cades Cove, and probably recognizable for anyone anywhere who have churches of this style, 100, 200 years old. This white church sits in Cades Cove. Actually, in person, you can't see it on this webcam, but there's some of the glows of the sunlight coming through, and some of the glow of the window that's actually inside the church here. But this name of this card is Indoctrinated, and it's all about not just indoctrination as far as not necessarily religious, but all the ways we are indoctrinated into our beliefs, the way we see the world, and the way we grow up. So yeah. Legacy. Legacy came to me, and it's very odd. I know this is a what they call those Dutch ovens. We have an old one here that we always fix our vegetable soup in, and actually all kinds of stews and soups. But to me, is after a story I was reading, it came to me to include this and legacy. And leaving behind a legacy is not always the way the world seems. Leaving behind a legacy of, it can be recipes or your family getting together. But for us, it is about, getting together around good food, leaving a legacy of my children and grandchildren, and their grandchildren will always make this recipe, hopefully. And they will leave, that will be part of my legacy. It may not be great and grand when people think of legacy for them, but for me, a legacy of love and stories and good times will be mine. I have cleanse here. This is an old wrought iron bathtub that sits in a place called Elkmont here in the Smoky Mountains. They also called it Daisy Town, I believe. It is an old vacation little, basically, I don't know if you've ever seen Dirty Dancing, but how they would go each summer and spend their summers there. Were these homes, there were individual houses similar to those camping houses you would see. And families would own these homes and come and stay for the summer. And they would have, they had games out there, and they had all kinds of things. They had a clubhouse out there. It was basically for higher society. But since then, when the railroad stopped going through and the national park was built, or the national park was took over by the government, and I'm trying to get my history right here. You'll have to excuse me. Um, People stopped going there, the leases ran out, and the government, of course, took over. And the last lease ran out. Gosh, I think it was 2009, but don't quote me on that. But they have been left in disrepair since then. Now, since then, they have started to restore some of these homes, but inside you will find a couple of old bathtubs, some shower curtains. They're kind of eerie. It's kind of eerie, but I like that. It's just kind of, it's just standing there in time. And but I chose cleanse for this. And I figured, even if you hadn't been to Elkmont, your grandma or someone, you might remember having or seeing one of these old tubs. And of course, it's rusted out and it was yucky. But to me, it's the cleansing card was perfect for this. And I do think these are very intuitive. Hopefully the choice of words and the images will allow for intuitive reading. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this one at first, but I love these cows that are in the field just by my house. And we have a couple of these all around where I live at, but this is sacred. If anyone's ever heard of the sacred cow, this is the sacred cow. And I wanted to leave enough room in here for people to kind of look some things up too and learn something, and maybe learn something from where we are. And I don't know. Stephen, Dutch oven is great. People of old leave utensils when passing. Yes, and it leaves a legacy. I love that. I have some cast iron skillets. That is also funny. We're talking about that. This card here is maturity. This is I have a couple, my old cast iron skillet, old iron skillet. I don't know if people call that a skillet everywhere, but that's what we call it here. And maturity. These are often passed down, but for me, maturity was also, I started to use the word seasoned, but it didn't have the word, really the meaning that I wanted. And we all know that with an iron skillet, it's no good until it's well seasoned. And seasoned and maturity kind of went hand in hand. And being able to allow maturity to come and gracefully get older, but maturity is also about being seasoned. And I just love that. So this is the first time I've really described my cards outside of my head and in my heart. This is the veil, which, and again, is another image where I live at in the many trees. And I love that, the veil. We have perception, which this is actually in one of my plants, but perception is one of my garden, sticks out of my garden, but perception is this, you can't think of my words here, how we see through things, how we see things, what our perception is. It's actually like, not a crystal ball, you know what I mean. Main Street, here we go. Red's Cafe, which this is backwards right here, but this community. And this is actually a painted wall on one of the main streets in our town, where they're redoing and remodeling things to make it newer, but it's about community. We have the death card. This is actually just a bird that I found in my garden and now sits in one of my potted plants in my house. We have the fire here, which is rage. Many of you, I'm sure, have fire pits in your home, but this is rage. Window. You have to tell me what you're talking about there. Steps. You know, this could be about taking steps, the steps we need to take, going up, going down. But this was in a cabin in Cades Cove. Foundation, which this is what foundations of homes look like. Old cabins and churches. But this is an up close of one of the cabins there. Friendship, which we have the friendly daisies, and I love how the white pops out in this card, and that is my mountain right there, my field right there behind our house. Perception. Okay. Yes. Rebirth. And this is a little tricky here because I was torn between rebirth and death until I got another image for death. But every year, like so many, I'm sure, that leave their pumpkins out around Halloween, if you celebrate Halloween or what have you. But if you've ever left a pumpkin out to rot, well, I do. I leave my pumpkins beside my porch. And last year we had some grow back. Every year we've had them grow back, actually. But last year I had 4 different kinds of pumpkins that I had gotten, and some of those with the warts, and I had a white one and an orange one, and they were all different. One was green, and they were all different kinds. But we had pumpkins of all different kinds come back, and that's what this is about, is the rebirth from death. It's what's rotted away for the time that it was used, but letting things fall away or like rot away and then rebirth into something else, or rebirth again anew, actually, is what I would think. Calling. That is a Tennessee raven, a common raven. And this speaks to me because ravens and crows are actually my spirit animal. We have a lot of them here, those and hawks here. But calling is about, heeding the call and listening to your calling. Really listen. I think this bird comes calling to me a lot to remind me of my spiritual path and my creative endeavors. And so this is the calling card. This is space. These wide open spaces that we have, so many fields here that used to be tobacco fields and whatnot. Most of them are just pasture land or just open grassy fields now. They're not really used like they once were. But the open spaces, I just love this. I remember going on a walk down the street and the wide open spaces, it just gave me, it's funny how the mountains can give me security and feel protected, but it also gives me room to breathe. Depending on what season it is, it's just a whole different feeling, and just the brisk, cold air. And it was so quiet that day. We'd had snow, and when I need space, to know when I need that space and to take time for myself. This is tranquility, which is a tricky kind of photograph. These are deer, a family of deer that were visiting us last year. And that's the feeling that they give me. They're just so quiet and so elegant and so tranquil when they come through. And I look forward every time that they do visit us. We have a new family of them, actually, that visited just the other day, a mother and a baby, but tranquility. There are a couple of moon phases in here to go with Hollar Moon Mountain. And the other one that I included was the shadow side, which it was almost complete new moon, dark moon. And I took this one, but just reminding me to retreat and really embrace the dark moon phase each month is like a reset and setting my intentions. This one is also in Cades Cove. And this is preservation. And this, to me, goes a little bit deep. Also seeing faces in these windows, which is wild. Not only are they preserving history, but the preservation of ourselves and preserving that core being of ourselves. Yeah. Delight was lucky enough to capture a hummingbird on camera, and this was totally by accident, and some sunflowers that me and my daughter actually grew in front of our porch. And it just brings delight and happiness. It was just a beautiful moment. Illusion. This is a barber shop again in one of our main streets here where I live. The guy here is an elderly gentleman who still cuts hair, still has the old barber chairs, but the old barber pole still stands outside his shop, and the barber pole is an illusion, of course, but the illusions that we might be telling ourselves or what we might be living in. This is the bridge to the old grist mill in Cades Cove. But bridge can have very many meanings. Bridges are, of course, used to get over things and connect things. Reflection is very dear to my heart, and you wouldn't think reflection maybe firsthand. When you think about reflections, you might think of mirrors. But for me, this statue actually sits at the foot of my daughter's headstone back in an old Civil War cemetery near my husband's family's home in Georgia. And we had placed her here. This statue, when I visit her, of course, I live 4 hours away from it now. But when I do visit her, for me, the look on this statue's face, I reflect in many different ways on my life, on her life, on a lot of things that are near and dear to me. But I don't know if you can see the face, it just struck me, and it makes me reflect. So this is reflection. And I don't know if these chats are still live. I hope everybody's enjoying it. This is love. Some of these are going to be self-explanatory, so I'm going to try to go through these a little bit faster. And this is my prototype deck, by the way. The other ones will be placed in there on pre-order right now. These are seeds. I'm planting the seeds. Planting seeds for our fruit. Of course, we have tomatoes here, which in the South, red tomatoes, green tomatoes. Nostalgia. It's good to feel nostalgic and appreciate where we are and how far we've come sometimes. But this is an old wood burning stove. I believe in Elkmont, as I spoke of earlier. If you don't not familiar, I encourage you to look it up. It's a wondrous place. Between. This is I believe the third moon phase that I have in this deck to go in the theme of Hollar Moon Mountain, which is another. Of course, I took all of these photographs myself, but for me, sometimes it's just about being present in the in-between, in that in-between space. Not moving forward, not going backwards, just enjoying where we're at. This is a classic example, and this is another one that kind of, you still pick up a lot of the details. It's not as blurry as what it's actually very detailed, but I meant for it to look like a shadow. And this is a cardinal, and it was hard to put this one into black and white. This is one I did filter. I did take black and white. But messages, and we all know that red birds are messengers. The reflections touched me a bit, as I have the same thoughts. Thank you. I love that someone else connected from where I was coming from with that card and could see that for what I saw. That means a lot. Of course, this is prayer. And prayer is not necessarily religious. It can be, but prayers, repetitions, meditations. This is an old, these are actually old. I don't know if you can tell. And I was worried about using this card because I wasn't sure if anybody could tell because it was so worn, but it meant so much to me. For where they don't have headstones at Cades Cove, there's a couple of old cemeteries, but they had marker stones, which were just stones on the ground that marked gravestones that didn't have headstones. But this little praying hands was on one of the marker stones around one of the old oak trees out there. And I love statues. Old statues are just amazing. The ancestors card, which is, I can never remember. This is the old Walker sisters. There's an old Walker sisters, and you can look that up too, right down from our home in the national park. But they have a cabin, but there's also an old schoolhouse. And believe it or not, beside the schoolhouse is an old cemetery there. And it's like, as you can see some of the marker stones, but there's also some headstones there. But this is the ancestors card. This is boundary and boundaries. The boundaries card. You know, this is simple as reminding us, to have strong, firm boundaries, just like the boundaries that surround the national park here. Without the boundaries, would we still have respect for them? I don't know. They're protected, much like our own personal boundaries. This one is reminding us to rise, just like the sun, in the early morning over the mountains here. This one is also near and dear to me. You can tell I chose all of them because they were near and dear to me, but I actually there's a person in one of these, and it's the only card that I use with a person, and it is my daughter. And I think she was about 7 in this photograph. She was so happy I used it, but I kept coming back to it. And it's at the pool down the street. We all remember spending our time in our summers at the pool and at the rivers and creeks. And this is a pool down the street from our home. It's just a little community pool outside. But she was sitting here one day at the end of a very long day. We'd been there. We stayed until early, and we stay until the late evening whenever we can. And everyone else had left, and the sun was setting behind the trees. The mountain, we're in a holler, so we are surrounded by mountains where we live. We live in a valley. But she was sitting there. And this, we all wished we had more time. But she was so small, and her shadow was so much bigger than her. And it's just to appreciate time, And it just hit me. So I used it. It's a very personal card, but I think people can resonate with it. Gift. This is the gift card, and you can see the mountain and rays of sunshine coming down. But all of these flowers are growing wild right there in the field by our home. And that nature in itself is a gift. At least that is what it means to me, and having kids that come and pick you flowers and give you a gift of love, and gifts come in many different forms, but maybe you need to give someone a gift. But again, this one is observe. These are 2 hawks that live right outside our house. They come and visit and sit in one of the many tall trees right outside my window over here. And there used to just be one. It's found a mate, and now there are 2. And I was lucky enough to catch both of them. Usually they take turns, but I caught both of them on a branch here. And this is all about observing from a higher point of view, our higher self, maybe even reminding us that we're being observed, by a higher source and by spirit, and however you look at it. But for me, that's how the hawks and ravens rotate in and out of my life on the regular. So I pay attention. And when there are 2, that's even more so. So we're coming to the end. I only have 3 more here. We have movement. This is a waterfall near our house, probably about 3 miles down the road. We have many of them here in the mountains, but this is all about movement. This is the strength card. And I just love trees. I just love them. And this is how the angle that I got from it is just reminded me of strength. And maybe when we're not feeling so strong, to remind us that we're stronger than we think. And we can dig deep. And we can reach for our goals and reach our destination. But this is the strength card. And lastly is the choices card, and how our choices are all interwoven and they're weaved into this web, but that we weave our life with the many choices that we make. And I just thought that was a beautiful card. You can see the glistening, the morning dew there. I didn't share the backs of the cards, so I'll just save that for last here. This is what the backs look like. This is the only card that has any color on it at all. It has hints of blue in it. I don't know if you can see it, but try it from back here. I don't know if you can see. And I also took this one. This is the full moon. And for me, this full moon is all about finally reaching my goals. This has been huge for me. I am a chronic starter and quitter. I am. And I have many, many ideas that don't always come into fruition. Hello there. And I'll start something and stop, or I won't see something to the end, and I'll mean to, or I'll run out of time. I get distracted, and just like that. I think a lot of people who are creative in any way are like that a lot of times. Very impressed with your personal photo deck. I think it strengthens your readings. Thank you. But for me, it's about completion, the full moon, and I'm very proud of myself that I completed the deck. Each time I finished part of it, I just, in the back of my brain, it was like, please let me get to this end. I want to see this through. This is huge for me. I had a lot of doubt even when the deck came. I opened it up and was like, I just know there's going to be something wrong. I'm going to have to send it back. That that inner critic, and when I actually opened it, I turned it over and seen the first image. I was blown away with Hollar was the first one. I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. But there was still something inside of me. It's like, there's no way the next card is going to be blurry. Something's going to have to be edited. Something's going to be off. I'm going to have to send it back and redo some edits. There's no way it's going to be ready. But as I flipped through each card, they were exactly how I envisioned them. Exactly the quality that I just seen for them. Everything came as it was supposed to. And there was it gave me no room for excuses. Okay, it's good. Now what? Let's move forward. And I would like to just encourage, don't ever give up. No matter how many times you've stopped and started. I've stopped and started a million things. And I've had a million things that I just dream of. But my word for this year is action. And that's what I want to do. Hope y'all probably hear my husband out there roaring at an engine. He's working on his truck or on his Jeep. But I just encourage you to just stick with it, no matter how long it takes. And it can get discouraging. It can get frustrating, and you can have blocks and all kinds of things that might come up in your way. But she is finally here, and I'm very, very proud to offer it to people. I don't know if it'll sell one copy or it may just be my copy, but I'll be just as happy because I've seen it come into this world, and it's here now. And I hope if you do decide to get a copy of the deck, that you enjoy it just as much as I do. I would love to hear anybody's feedback. It is listed on Etsy. I've never had an Etsy store. This is all new to me. But I will list all of that in links below. You can also find me as I sit here and I guess self-promote myself, which I'm not good at either. I am on Facebook at Hollar Moon Mountain. I am on Instagram at Hollar Moon Mountain. You can find me here. Hopefully I will do some regular uploads. I want to share some stories behind these cards in the future. And like I said, my Etsy store is also, you can find it under Hollar Moon Mountain there as well. I'll try to remember to put all these links in the pages and the websites and stuff that I mentioned in the deck during this broadcast. Anyway, I am just blown away that there's been anybody here to watch. It's just been fantastic. I didn't have to sit here and talk to myself, which is amazing because I do way better having people to speak to and feel like I'm interacting with. It just makes a world of difference. So anyway, like I said, I hope to upload some more videos. This was just amazing. I really enjoyed it. And I guess see you in the next live. And I'm also anybody that does plan on getting a deck, I'm planning on providing a little pouch that comes with it and an extra little special something from the mountains from me to you. So there's that. So anyway, I will see y'all next time, and I'm just so glad that y'all join me. It's just I'm really, really, truly grateful. So see you next time. Until then, bye.